Is it believable that the state's camera simply stopped working mysteriously when the drink situation occurred? You be the judge.
Thank you.
It's Christopher Butler, CHRSTAPHER, BUTLER.
Good morning.
Morning.
Mr. Smith, do you mind grabbing one of those mics that move and speak into that so everybody can hear you? Thank you.
Is that better?
Great, thanks.
Lieutenant Butler, where are you employed?
I'm with the City of Atlanta Police Department.
And how long have you been employed with APD?
A little over 14 years.
And what unit are you currently assigned to?
I'm currently assigned to Special Victims Unit.
All right. As of March 2022, what unit were you assigned to?
I was a sergeant with the Homicide Unit at that time.
Okay. Can you tell the jury some of your what your role was and your responsibilities within the Homicide Unit?
So I worked on evening watch. So our hours were 2 to midnight. And we would respond to any homicide, any kind of suspicious death, suicide. So anytime an officer would raise us, we'd respond out to that location.
Now, are you familiar with the with VIC cameras?
Yes, those are our cameras that are around the city.
Okay. And what does what are they?
So basically, the city has cameras around the city. Some of them they record all the time, and some of them are license plate readers, which we refer to as LPRs. And currently, businesses are allowed to let us have access to let us know there's cameras there. They kind of operate like security cameras, basically.
Okay. And what is the VIC unit within APD?
Our VIC unit's manned by sworn and civilians. It's a video integration center, so we have people up there 24 hours a day monitoring the cameras. So if a crime occurs, we can radio to them and they can start looking into it off scene while we're handling the scene.
Now, are you familiar with GDOT cameras?
GDOT, that's our Georgia Department of Transportation cameras. So through our VIC unit, we have access to their cameras as well. And those usually monitor the highways.
Now, can you tell the jury how GDOT cameras operate?
So they're different than ours. Ours are live stream and they record. GDOT cameras don't record. So like when you're watching the news and you're seeing the traffic ebb and flow, GDOT, they just keep going. They don't record, so we can't go back and ask for a recording. They're just live stream.
Okay. Now, is the VIC unit able to look at an integrated map and tell which cameras are working?
Yes. So the way it works, it's kind of, we just have a program and it kind of works like Google Earth and Google Maps. You can zoom in and out. And when we zoom out or zoom in, it narrows down on that and tells us what cameras are there. So whether it's ours or a school or if it's a GDOT camera, it'll tell us what cameras are there and if they're working or not.
Okay. And if it's a GDOT camera, it tells you it's in real time, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, in your role, is it routine to look at these VIC cameras?
Yeah, typically anytime a call would come up, depending on the location, an officer would respond to the scene and raise us on radio. So before we would respond, I would typically, given the type of crime, if it's on a street or a parking lot location, I'd try to pull up and see if we had any cameras in the area.
Now, is there any kind of correlation between the VIC cameras, the LPR cameras, and the GDOT cameras?
They're just all manned by the same system that we can access. GDOT has their main hub. We have ours.
And you mentioned LPR system. Can you tell the jury what LPR is?
So it's short for license plate readers. And typically they're just all around the city. They basically are just, their main job is to run tags. Every tag that runs through there, it captures it, takes a picture. And then if we, for investigative purposes, need to locate a vehicle, we can put in the license plate and it'll run it through the system and tell us it'll give us a picture, what intersection and time that it hit.
Okay. I want to turn your attention to March 14th, 2022. Did you assist in the investigation of a murder at Windsor Street and I-20?
Yes, I was on duty at that time.
Okay. And tell the jury what you did.
So typically, the officer would raise us on radio and let us know that they had a male deceased in a vehicle. And like I stated, before we left the office, I went ahead and pulled up our cameras. And we were able to locate that GDOT had a camera that was pointing at 20 in Windsor, so I-20 in Windsor. And it captured that intersection where the crime scene was. And at that time, the camera was actually frozen. So before I left the office, I took a screenshot of it just for preservation because I didn't know if the camera was going to come back on. And then we'd respond to the scene. So myself and other detectives would respond out to the scene, and typically we'd task them out with different responsibilities, whether it's evidence collection, speaking with witnesses. And then I'd kind of just oversee all that and coordinate with crime scene and the medical examiner and notifying other people.
I'm now going to go ahead and publish what's already been admitted as States 64, Victor, Victor. Lieutenant Butler, I think there's a pointer right behind you. If you can tell the jury what's depicted in State Victor, Victor.
Right, so that's going to be the intersection of Windsor. So the way the camera is facing, it's actually it's pointing south on Windsor Street. And you can see there the car at the intersection is where the decedent was sitting. And that was just the camera was frozen. So it was sitting there. It just happened to be frozen when we needed it.
Now, is this a GDOT camera or a VIC camera?
It's a GDOT camera.
Okay. And the GDOT camera was frozen?
Correct.
Okay. Is it typical for them to freeze?
It just depends. I mean, ours do it. It's technology. Sometimes it, works all the time, and sometimes it just goes down.
Okay. Do you know why this one was frozen?
I have no idea.
Okay. And what else did you do?
So we responded out to the scene. Also, when we got out there, we didn't know the vehicle's license plate. So after processing the scene and coordinating with ID or crime scene technicians, we go back to the office, and I took the vehicle's tag and ran it through our license plate readers just to find out where they've been traveling. And so I was able to determine from there, earlier in the evening, that vehicle was caught traveling just northbound towards that intersection.
Okay. Permission to approach, Your Honor?
You may.
Lieutenant Butler, I have just handed you what's been pre-marked as States 121, Victor, Victor. Do you recognize that document?
Yes, this would be our typical. It's a query of that tag and the camera in that area to see what vehicles have passed through that intersection.
Okay. And is that a fair and accurate depiction of the query you ran?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time, the state moves to admit 121, Victor, Victor.
No objection.
Admitted.
Now publishing States 121, Victor, Victor. Okay. Lieutenant Butler, if you could kind of walk the jury, what is depicted in States 121, Victor?
So basically, it's showing that I was the user and performed a query for the LPR, the license plate reader at Windsor and Richardson. And so what it does is it just gives me a list of every car that went through that intersection. And towards the bottom there, you can see the license plate RKM 9343, which was the vehicle the decedent was in. And it had actually hit Windsor at Richardson, which is just south of Windsor and I-20.
And what time was that?
That was at 9:24 and 7 seconds p.m.
Now, did you prepare a report in this case, Lieutenant Butler?
I'm sorry?
Did you prepare a report in this case?
No, I did not.
Court's indulgence, Your Honor. Yes. Lieutenant Butler, was that the only image from State 64V? Was that the only image that froze that night?
Yes.
Okay. Nothing further at this time, Your Honor.
Any questions from the defense?
Lieutenant Sergeant or Lieutenant?
Lieutenant now.
Lieutenant. Good morning. My name is Max Shard. I represent Shannon Stillwell. Okay. Just briefly, when you were in the office before going to the scene on March 14, 2022, it sounded like you began your work in the office.
Correct.
Okay. My understanding from your testimonies, we have VIC cameras, which can be divided into different groupings.
Correct.
Okay, so we have the city-owned cameras, which record.
Right.
We have LPRs, which take photos.
Correct.
Okay. Then we have businesses on the grid that record as well.
So depending how the business wants, they can provide access to their cameras, or they can just let us know, hey, there's a camera here. So if an investigation were to go on, instead of knocking door to door, it can kind of streamline us to go straight here instead of walking a whole neighborhood or whatever the case may be.
And then we have Department of Transportation cameras. Are those part of the VIC system?
Well, we just have access to it. Like, they're not controlled by us, they're controlled by the state, but the state allows us access. Like, we also have access to Atlanta Public Schools cameras as well.
Okay. So let me ask you this. To city-owned cameras that record, were there not any city-owned cameras at the corner of 20 and Windsor Street?
Not at the time, no. Not that I could locate.
What do you mean, not that you could locate?
Well, we zoom in and out, and at the time there were no cameras there. But cameras are always getting installed, so at the time of that incident, there were no VIC cameras there.
Okay. You did locate this Department of Transportation camera, and your testimony is it just froze at 10:23 p.m. just as Mr. Cheeseborough showed up?
Correct.
Okay. And we don't have any recording of what happened at that location as seen by that camera from 10 o'clock to 10:23.
To my knowledge, that is correct, yes.
When you say to your knowledge that is correct, have you checked with the Department of Transportation?
No, I handled the scene and the response, and then investigation gets turned over to the lead detective.
Okay. And going back to, was that the only LPR you ran?
This query?
Yes, the query of, what is it, corner of Richardson and Windsor?
Yes.
Is that the only LPR that you personally ran?
That I ran this, and then I also did the tag itself to see where else it would hit.
Okay.
And so there was another query, but this one most related to that geographical area.
Understand. The only individual car that you personally looked into or queried was the red
Correct.
Versa.
Right.
Okay. And finally, this VIC camera system, how long have you been working with the system?
I mean, everybody on the department has access to it. So from day one, I mean, anybody can log in and use it. I mean, however, since it's been in existence, so I don't remember when we first started getting it, but it's been some years.
When you say some years, when approximately, you said from day one?
I mean, I can't give an exact date, but I was in Special Victims back in 2018, and we just started getting them. But I really started using them mostly when I was in homicide, which was 2019.
Okay. And now, are you saying you started using them, or that's when they were available?
I don't know the go live date on it.
Okay.
But my most interaction was probably between 2018 and 2019.
How about LPRs?
LPRs, the same. Those actually came out a little before, and it was on a different program, but still the same.
Okay. All right. Thank you. No further questions.
All right. Ms. Weinstein, anything for me?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, any redirect?
Just briefly, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Sergeant Butler, for the years that you've been serving in your position, did DOT cameras ever record?
No.
No, further.
All right, thank you for your time. You are excused. Call our next witness.